Welcome to BW Healthcare World. We are at that part of the year when we are introspecting how the industry has performed in the year that has been and what is it that we can expect as trends for the next year. To discuss and understand how the out of hospital care has performed in the past 1 year and what is it that we can expect and what are the asks from the policymakers, I have with me my special guest, Vaibhav Tewari. Vaibhav is the co founder and CEO of Portea. He has been at the helm of affairs and making a difference in the industry for the past 24 years. Welcome, Vaibhav, to BW Healthcare World. Let me begin by asking that how has the sector, the out of hospital care sector, performed in the past 1 year? I'm sure there have been ups and downs and recovery from, COVID. So, what has been your understanding of the past 1 year?
I think thanks Harbinder for having me here, and I think last 1 year has been quite a revelation in many ways because of course you as you talked about COVID, India went through I think three waves of COVID. We had wave one which had all the lockdowns and a lot of discretionary healthcare spend coming down. Of course, impacted outside the hospital as well. And wave two of course was a lot more severe, and many patients required oxygen at home and required like nursing care. It's like a big requirement for, of course, for 2 to 3 months, but massive changes. But and of course then we had wave three, which lasted I think in reality maybe month and a half, but in perception probably 3 to 4 months. So I think this year, at least calendar year, is started with the first three and a half months being quote unquote dedicated to wave three. But I think through all these changes, what we have been seeing that outside the hospital healthcare, the home care became front and center from a healthcare services perspective. So of course, a nice to have couple of years back, but I think last 2 years and same to a large extent this year also, people saw the value of saying, okay, what home care can deliver or what outside the hospital healthcare can deliver. So I think from being like a new service available in the market, use it if you want to, a nice to have. For consumers, it became front and center. For healthcare ecosystem also became front and center. And I think the year 2022 has been a lot about home care being leveraged in a lot of strategic initiatives, a lot of strategic discussions across the healthcare ecosystem. I think that's the biggest change, if you ask me, from trend wise, which has played out this year.
And are there any numbers to substantiate how the sector has grown in 2022?
So I think and there's a Frost and Sullivan report actually. Though there's, I think that sector is growing. I think 25% year on year now. Actually, that's what the numbers are. I can share the report with you. You can refer to the numbers, and that is, and of course the big part of this whole sector is that this is still 90% plus unorganized, right? So it's the sector is huge. Of course, the organized players have been there, and in the last 9 to 10 years, and of course unorganized sector. But in both ways, the overall from a requirement perspective, need perspective, it is sector has grown tremendously last year.
Wherever, since the sector is growing, the need has emerged. I mean, people have found the importance of home care, and there's a more acceptability of these services. So, have you seen new players coming in and trying to organize this otherwise disorganized sector?
Yeah, so I think
I would say unorganized sector.
Yeah, I think quite a few, I would not say new entrants, but people are like looking at expanding into different areas related to outside the hospital healthcare. We are seeing action happening in transition care centers. From home care perspective, I think there are a few hospitals which have started their own home care, and they're looking at how do they expand that. Now we also have been in talks with multiple other hospitals where they're looking at how they want to launch a home care which is dedicated to their hospitals, of course run by us, but dedicated to their hospitals. So overall awareness, even unorganized part, actually there are like enough and more mom and pop shops, if you can call it, have also sprung up in the last 1 year. Medical equipment is another area which I think has got a lot of fillip because of COVID, and that also forms a part of home care, right? From from medical equipment perspective. So that again sector which has grown, and we are seeing enough players. Of course, this is operationally. Operationally a significant challenge to build this business, right? So of course it takes time for people to start building, start growing, and of course everybody goes through their own learning curves. But I think there are players who are looking at it a lot more strategically now than ever before. So
However, what is it that we are expecting in 2023? Do we, how will the industry perform in terms of, will there be consolidation of these mom and pop shops that have emerged into with an M&A with larger players? What are the growth prospects that we see in the coming year?
I think from a growth prospect, both the sector growing as well as, of course, some consolidation may happen. Of course, those things are always a possibility. But I think the most important thing, what will happen in this sector, I think we always call it outside the hospital healthcare. And if you see also in the US, right, what they are having this trend of last couple of years of what is called hospital at home, right? So I think from a sector perspective, the big focus will continuously be from the healthcare ecosystem players, saying that how they can leverage home care more and more, correct? So whether it's pharmaceutical companies, whether it's insurance, whether it's corporates, hospitals, of course, they all are looking at how to leverage home care better and better and more central to their plans going forward. I think that is something which you will see a lot more happening next year. Whether consolidation will happen or not happen, I think very early days even now for the industry from that perspective. But I think how to leverage home care, how to leverage this capability to reach out to patients' homes and support them, correct, for everything. That's something that's something will continue to gain momentum. And we saw a lot of signals of that even this year, right? Insurance started covering home care. I think a couple of insurance companies have looked at it very seriously and are looking at launching policies which will include home care. And we are seeing a lot more discussions happening around that. So I would believe that the big change is that how home care becomes a lot more front and center, how insurance starts covering it. Of course, these are all things which take time. Initiatives have to be implemented, will take time to gain critical mass and so on and so forth. But I think from overall industry perspective, the sector perspective, the big change will be to how to leverage home care by more players. Actually, that's something which will happen. So far it has been saying, okay, you're post-operative or you require geriatric care, you take home care. But things like, can you do cancer care at home? Can you do basically sleep management, pulmo care at home, right? Those kind of things, which are becoming more solution-driven in the vertical focused, critical care. Those kind of things will gain more and more momentum because everybody is looking at how to leverage this. Leverage is more to reach out to patients, support patients at home.
So if I hear you correctly, it is rather than consolidation, we are looking at more of a collaborative approach that we.
Yes. I think that I think you are absolutely right. The collaborative approach probably is the driving force in 2023. That's how I look at it.
Right. So Vaibhav, for any growth to happen in the sector like healthcare, the government initiatives actually become very imperative. And so what is your expectation from the policymakers in the coming year that will give the growth that is required by the industry?
I think 2-3 key areas. One, of course, as IRDA approves home care as part of healthcare, right? So basically for insurance companies, I think that could be a big change. I mean, this can be accelerated, expedited if that change comes and gets formally recognized, saying, okay, all policies, home care, XYZ percentage is covered as part of insurance. The way it's happening in the say US right now, I think that will be a big change, which can not only, of course, this industry has expansion basis that, but also for patients has become a lot easier, right? We all know that healing at home is always easier and is faster, right? So I mean, if that the insurance starts covering it, then of course that will be a big change for the patients and of course for us as an industry. Second big thing will be how geriatric care focus. I think government has been focusing on geriatric care, and India's our geriatric population is I think bound to be about 350 million by 2050 or so. And with those kind of numbers coming in front of us in next 20-25 years, I think it's very important that we have sector-specific, geriatric care-specific policies and implementation on the ground. And we have seen that during COVID times when government implemented policies and of course infrastructure around COVID, a lot of real action happened on the ground in last 2 years, right? So I think from midterm perspective, having a strong focus on geriatric care will also be very, very important, both for us as a nation to look at reducing the healthcare cost as we go along, and of course for outside the hospital healthcare sector to pick up.
And were any specific expectation from the budget of 2023 that you may be having, which is going to directly impact the home care segment or hospital at home segment?
I think one thing is there, and I'm looking at more as a outside the hospital healthcare. Basically, that includes transition care, that includes assisted living, that of course includes home care. I think the complete clarity on GST will be important. I think, and including medical equipment, what is covered in the GST, what is not covered in GST, and of course the more and more healthcare services at home are fully clearly not covered in the GST, including probably things like assisted living and transition care will be a big positive.
And Vaibhav, what is it that we can expect from Portea in the coming year? Is there some more investment? Are you going public, or any new product services that you're looking at venturing into?
So from our perspective, of course, we have filed our DRHP in 2022, and depending on the market conditions, we'll see how that plays out. But from a business perspective, I think it's a very, very exciting space to be in. And we really believe that reaching out to more and more patients, we have served over 1 million patients so far, and the whole focus is how do we support patients in the comforts of their home for all their healthcare needs. I think that's a big focus for Portea, has remained the only focus for Portea, and that will look at going forward also how we can continuously double down on that. So of course how we can support them for all of their healthcare needs at home. I think that's a big focus, including verticalized solutions. What more can we create there? What can we build? I think those are things which we'll focus on in 23.
Well, before I let you go, I have one question that I've been always wanting to ask you is that, COVID has taught us that healthcare at home can be managed. You can have a hospital kind of care at home, probably better. But now we've also seen that emergency situations that we had always thought of but never felt that they would ever be a reality. We've seen that become real in the last 2 or 3 years. How have companies like yourself created expansion plans so that you're geared up for any such emergency that the nation may face? Why I'm asking you this is because this may happen, but at the same time the investment may go just waste if you do not see this kind of situations arise again. So what is your preparedness for such kind of emergency?
Certainly from our perspective, I think is specific to home care outside the hospital healthcare. I would say that what we saw during COVID, I was mentioning in the earlier part of our discussion also, I think acceptance of home care is much higher now, and we have looked at expanding into more cities in 2022, and that path should continue in 23 as well. So we are present in 40 cities right now as we speak, and almost half of that came in 2022. And the big thing is, of course, some of the smaller markets are ready today. I think the big change from pre-COVID to now is that those markets are ready today. And that's what we are investing in, saying that how do we reach to more and more parts of the country and provide patients with the healthcare and the comforts of their home. And so even if you were to hit by an emergency like a COVID or anything else, I think from a footprint perspective, we're better prepared to handle that. Of course, from capability perspective, right? Because we have handled this for last 3 years, right? In wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. How to look at solutions that are specific to that particular crisis. I think that's one big thing which healthcare industry did very well in last 3 years, right? I mean, both wave 1, wave 2 requirements were very different. But I think whether it's hospitals, home care, all other players as well came together in that sense of, including government, of course, we came together saying that what we could do together to solve that crisis at hand that time, right? So if you look at wave 1 was all about basically home isolation, right? Which was a big thing. How many more and more patients we can just handle at home. And wave 2 was all about saying how we can provide oxygen to patients at home at that time, right? And we worked with a lot of, as I said, collaboration with ecosystem players. Like we ran programs with HUL, we ran programs with a lot of corporates to provide oxygen concentrators to patients at home, right? So I think the collaboration piece is the biggest learning out of this, right? So one, you look at the crisis, look at what are the solutions which will work in that crisis, the whole innovation piece, nimbleness to handle that, and then get all the participants together and create the solution, and of course roll it out quickly. Correct. I think that has been the biggest learning of last 3 years, if you ask me. And we did that with government, we did that other hospitals, other players in other like corporates and other players in the ecosystem. And I would say that with our better footprint, larger footprint now, if we create a solution, God forbid if there's a crisis like that to handle, and we create the solution with our larger footprint, is easier to take out to more and more people going forward. I think that's a big change, I would say, we have seen in last 3 years.
Awesome. Weber, let's hope that this situation does not come up again. But if it does, I think we've all learned and are better prepared to handle the situation better the next
Yes.
time. With
Yes.
that, I want to thank you so much for taking out time to speak to us at BW Healthcare World. I wish you and Portea the best for 2023.
Thank you, Harbinder. Nice talking to you.